Good morning. The hearing will come to order. The Committee on Armed Services has convened this hearing to consider the pending nomination of Mr. Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense. And at this point, in light of the continued suffering and death in and around Los Angeles, California, I'm going to ask my colleagues and those in the audience to observe a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my good friend, Ranking Member Jack Reed. This is my first opportunity to chair this committee in this Congress. I want to thank Senator the pending nomination of Mr. Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense. And at this point, in light of the continued suffering and death in and around Los Angeles, California, I'm going to ask my colleagues and those in the audience to observe a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my good friend, Ranking Member Jack Reed. This is my first opportunity to chair this committee in this Congress. I want to thank Senator Reed. Under his chairmanship, he proved time after time that he cares deeply about national security and about the United States of America, and particularly the men and women who wear the uniform and stand watch both here and around the world to protect the United States. Senator Reed, I want to thank you for the many courtesies that you have extended to me in the past, and I look forward to working with you again in a bipartisan fashion this Congress. It's also appropriate to recognize and welcome 3 senators attending their very first Senate Armed Service Committee hearing as members. Senator Banks of Indiana, Senator Sheehy of Montana, and Senator Slotkin of Michigan. We are excited to have you as committee colleagues and look forward to many important contributions from each of you. And Senator Slotkin, as I look down at the end of the dais there, it seems that only a week or two ago I was sitting in that very chair being recognized by the chairman of the committee, the distinguished senator from Michigan. So time flies. Now, let me say this. We had a very appropriate expression of approval by the members of the members of the audience as our nominee and his family walked in. The distinguished ranking member and I sincerely hope that that is the last signal of approval or disapproval in today's hearing. People of the public are here. They're welcome to observe today's hearing, and Senator Reed and I agree, though, that no disruptions will be allowed. Audience members may not verbally or physically distract from the hearing, to include shouting, standing, or raising signage or gestures that block the view of the audience. And we're very serious about this, aren't we, Mr. Reed? And
absolutely, sir.
Those who do so will be immediately escorted from the room. Again, welcome to the witnesses, to his friends, and to interested members of the public. If confirmed, Mr. Pete Hegseth would assume the role in a moment of consequence. The United States faces the most dangerous security environment since World War II. We're witnessing the explosive growth and reach of China's hard power. We're also observing the emergence of an axis of aggressors. That coalition is characterized by broadening and deepening military cooperation among the dictatorships ruling China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Terrorism remains a threat as Israel wages war against Hamas and Hezbollah, and as the Assad regime collapses in Syria. America has entered a window of maximum danger, and the department needs energetic and focused civilian leadership. Those values begin at the top with the Secretary of Defense. Many of my distinguished colleagues have served in a significant tenure on this committee, and our meetings are fairly long. We should reflect over previous secretaries of Defense and their hearings and ask ourselves a simple question. Has the civilian leadership of the Pentagon under the administration of both parties proven up to the challenge? Often the answer has been no. The civilian leadership has not built the Department of Defense to meet the moment. And this is our moment to correct that. A few examples illustrate how leaders in the past have fallen short. Most of the department's signature programs run years behind schedule and billions of dollars over cost. Vital initiatives have suffered, such as the F-35, the new Sentinel ICBM, and the Navy's shipbuilding program, including the Constellation-class frigate. The Department of Defense desperately needs civilian leaders who listen to the advice of combatant commanders, many of whom would benefit from innovative systems. Yet a risk-averse DoD culture has kept too many promising technologies on the wrong side of the so-called valley of death. That tenuous period between experimental prototypes and production contracts. Defense companies backed by venture capital receive less than 1% of defense contracts. As we all know, the Pentagon still cannot even pass an audit. The department must simplify and streamline its bureaucracy so it can respond to innovation. Staffs have ballooned. Organizations are top-heavy. Civilian leaders have promised time and again to slim down the bureaucracy and perhaps genuinely hoped to. Every day, men and women in uniform make tremendous contributions to U.S. security. They and the American people deserve a Pentagon that does the same. Today's Department of Defense is no longer prepared for great power competition. It is not a national defense institution ready to achieve and sustain technological supremacy across the range of operations. Admittedly, this nomination is unconventional. The nominee is unconventional, just like that New York developer who rode down the escalator in 2015 to announce his candidacy for president. That may be what makes Mr. Hegseth an excellent choice to improve this unacceptable status quo that I just described. He is a decorated post-9/11 combat veteran. He will inject a new warrior ethos into the Pentagon, a spirit that can cascade from the top down. Mr. Hegseth will bring energy and fresh ideas to shake up the bureaucracy. He will focus relentlessly on the warfighter and the military's core missions, deterring wars and winning the ones we must fight. He will bring a swift end to corrosive distractions such as DEI. Today, many simply acknowledge and live with the systemic problems I have mentioned earlier in acquisition, accountability, technology transition, and organizational civil service reform. Mr. Hegseth will actually move to fix these issues decisively. In short, I'm confident that Mr. Hegseth, supported by a team of experienced top officials, will get the job done. The Secretary of Defense is an incredibly important position, but the Secretary's span of control is limited. The Pentagon is vast, with 3 million plus personnel, uniformed, civilian, and contractor. A successful secretary understands that steering the ship means focusing his attention on strategic level priorities. The secretary must be supported with exceptional subordinates who will run the day-to-day affairs of the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the military services, and the other DoD components. I'm also confident that as an infantryman, Mr. Hegseth understands the military principle of commander's intent. Communicate the clear objective, empower subordinates to use initiative and judgment, and hold everybody accountable. We must not underestimate the importance of having a top-shelf communicator as Secretary of Defense. Other than the President, no official plays a larger role in telling the men and women in uniform, the Congress, and the public about the threats we face and the need for a peace through strength defense policy. I have no doubt Mr. Hegseth will excel in a skill in which many of his predecessors have fallen short. Much has been made of both Mr. Hegseth's personal life and some of his policy pronouncements. Regarding his personal conduct, Mr. Hegseth has admitted to falling short, as we all do from time to time. It is noteworthy that the vast majority of the accusations leveled at Mr. Hegseth have come from anonymous sources. Contrast these anonymous accusations with the many public letters of support and commendation. We have seen letters from people who served with Mr. Hegseth. These individuals have worked with him professionally. They really know him and his character. These patriotic Americans have been willing to put their names and reputations on the line to support Mr. Hegseth. I look forward to sharing these testimonials with the American people. Let me mention one right now. It comes from David Bellavia, who earned the Medal of Honor for heroic actions in combat in Fallujah, Iraq. David Bellavia writes the following: Pete is fearless, unflappable, and confronts conflicts head-on. He's a leader to the core. When Pete is confirmed as the next Secretary of Defense of the United States of America, this country will finally know the privilege of having a true ambassador able to speak on behalf of this generation and its two-decade global war on terror. Washington doesn't build men like Pete. Combat builds men like Pete. As I said, there are more letters expressing the same endorsement. Today, we'll hear from the nominee directly. I want to thank Mr. Hegseth as well as his loved ones for being here today. I look forward to discussing his nomination. I look forward to hearing from Mr. Hegseth about the ways he hopes to rebuild the American strength that secures the peace. And so now I turn to my friend and colleague, Ranking Member Reed, for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to first congratulate you on your chairmanship. I look forward